Drunken Hat.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Magic the Gathering Arena. Today we're looking at the ridiculous lands that go into a 5-color deck. No, we're looking at Herder Sliver, the dumbest deck in the entirety of the Magic Arena format. With maybe an exception for Mono Green Stompy. But then sometimes Mono Green Stompy has those kill spells, so you have to think a little bit. Anyway, this is the deck. It's slivers with slivers. So, the first sliver, the dumbest sliver. I wish they would put a good sliver in. This isn't even the greatest. Sliver Legion would just be so much better. Sliver Legion is just all slivers get +1/+1 for each other sliver on the battlefield. It's just like, hey look, I have 20/20s. Dear God, you shouldn't say that. It's a very, very unfortunate time. But yeah, this one gives all sliver spells you control, all sliver spells cascade. And it itself has cascade, which is what I like to call immediate value. Commanders with immediate value are ahead above a lot of other commanders. Just because being able to gain, it's up in the ranks of like Ulamog or the other Eldrazi, where when you cast them, you get an immediate cast benefit. And Cascade is a cast benefit. So that means you still get value even if it's countered. It's just really, really good. And what Cascade is, if you haven't been reading, when you cast it, you reveal until you reveal a non-land that's a lower cost. And because he gives Sliver spells Cascade, you can Cascade into Cascade while you Cascade and Cascade. You know, Cascade. One of my favorite cards in the entirety of Magic is the Apex Devastator. It's like a 10/10 vanilla green creature that just has Cascade 4 times. I think it costs 10 or 11. I think it costs 10. But yes, it's just, you play it for 10, and then it's like, okay, so I'm going to Cascade 4 times. So I'm going to reveal until I reveal something that costs less than 10. Yeah. You can either, like, flip 4 mana dorks and be like... or you could flip over, like, a fucking Vorinclex. Or you could flip over I don't know, any number of spells. Because even though it's green, you don't really play it in green decks. Oh, I wish they would put it in Arena. I wish they would put it in Arena. If I could have a wish. And if it were a fish. Ugh. But yeah, anyway, Cascade is a very fun mechanic. It's kind of like one of those chaos mechanics. You never really know what's going to happen until, like, it happens. But on slivers, giving all of your sliver spells Cascade just means you sliver into sliver while you sliver and sliver. So, you know, it's good. Now, I may have made an error. I put way too many non-slivers in this deck. To be fair, there's not that many slivers in the game itself. But some things I'd cut are things like Solemn Simulacrum, Circuitous Route, just cards that I put in that are just kind of like staples for 5 colors just to get the consistency. Because sometimes you just don't have the consistency that you need. Like, you don't get your Cultivates, or you don't get your Harrows, or like Open the Gates even. But yeah, that becomes a big problem. But aside from that, the land base is pretty crazy. Obviously, we're running the World Tree because it's mana fixing on a land. We're running the Triumphs because 3 mana is better than 2. And we're running the Snows because I have Into the North. Though that might be changing soon. I might cut the Snows and put in the Affinity lands. Basically, they're the lands that say if you have like an island or a mountain, it comes in untapped. That sort of thing. Just to like clean it up a little bit. Some fewer like tapped lands is really good, because if you start with 3 tap lands and you draw nothing but tap lands, you're a turn behind the entire game, and it does not feel great. And honestly, while Into the North is really good, just being able to grab a 2-cost land, in my opinion, they should put the crack lands in. The lands that are like, pay 1 life, tap it, sacrifice it, search for one of 2 land types. So like it's either search for a swamp or an island, which works with these because it doesn't say basic. That's just... It'd be nice to be able to play 5-color a bit more consistency closer to Commander. Because Commander, you can play 5-color super consistently just because the lands that exist are amazing. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Slivers. You play slivers and you do slivers. Mooring of the Frost is in here to be a 5-cost sliver, because changelings also count as slivers. Like Graveshifter, a little bit of... I think some more top end is probably what's needed here. Just because it's all 3 costs, and honestly, I don't need some of these, like Letter of Acceptance. Chromatic Lantern probably just because it's a 5-color deck. Faceless Agent is okay. No, it's better than okay, because if you have the first sliver out, you're not only cascading into another sliver, but you're seeking one. So, ignore me. Realmwalker, again, a changeling. This goes in every tribal deck that has green with it. Play slivers off the top, why not? As far as the slivers that really do things, Bone Size Sliver is one of the big ones. That double strike is incredibly relevant all the time. Cloud Shredder, this is one that you want to hit in, like, basically all of your games. You want to hit this sliver, this specific sliver, just because flying and haste, it can just, you can basically be like, I play the first sliver, I cascade into a different sliver, or you play the first sliver, and then you cascade into this, and suddenly you have a 7/7 flying haste, where if the turn before you played the Bone Scythe, that's almost game. That could be game if they don't have flyers. And amazingly, surprisingly, a lot of decks don't have flyers, and they don't have reach. Like, Elf Ball decks don't have any reach whatsoever. Usually. Sometimes they'll put in, like, the cheeky 1 or 2. Or they'll have, Ren and 8. Whatever the new Ren and Stimpy card is. And they'll make that reach elemental. But usually, that just means free damage and the haste just on top of it. It's amazing. Spiteful Sliver is another really good one if they have, like, blockers. Because then they're taking damage for every blocker, and then they have to do the math like, do I block, or do I just take it? It's basically damage that's almost guaranteed. Plus, the Planeswalker damage is just even better, so it's like, oh, well, I guess I won't block because I don't want my Planeswalker to die. More haste. Minache is okay, but mainly I run this just because of how it looks. Look at that card. That is so brutal looking. It looks like something from God Eater, honestly. God Eater, if you haven't played it, is a fantastic game for the PSP. And later, I think they ported it onto PC through the Steam store, and they not recently, but they released its 3rd iteration, which I think is for PC. But regardless, it looks like something from that game. It's just cool. More changelings. Again, I'm probably just gonna remove everything that's not a changeling or a sliver, just because I really want to sliver into sliver all the time. Even though things like Path to the Festival is really good. This card is underrated in my opinion, because for multicolored decks, searching for any basic land and putting it in tapped is worth the 3 mana. Which, if you think about it, for the 3 mana, getting +1 land is what Harrow does. Well, it's what Roiling Regrowth does. It's in total +1 land. So it's not as bad as you'd think. It's not like, oh, I'm paying 3 for just 1 more land, whatever. The Roiling Regrowth and the Harrow sacrificing the land to get 2 lands into play, while it can help you fix better, and is also removing lands from your hand, it's still just +1 land. So this having flashback, and if you happen to have 3 different land types, say you played a Triome turn 1. Look, you have 3 different land types. Boom, it scries 1. And the flashback is just another free land if you don't have anything else to do. It's really nice. Dryad. Looking at cutting you, buddy. This is just mana fixing. It's a 5-color deck. You need to, by at least turn 5, usually, preferably turn 4, you need to hit your first sliver and play it. Otherwise, you're going to be outpaced. Your opponent's going to be like, oh, you didn't play it on time. Guess what? I have counter, and I have kill spells. Yeah, Mana Weft Sliver, very good at fixing mana, just because it gives your slivers... It turns all your slivers into multicolor mana dorks. Looking at cutting. Though the Paradise Druid is probably less in danger of being cut, because it has hexproof when it's untapped, and sometimes your Mana Weft just gets bolted. Sometimes it's better to have that assurance. Universal Automaton. It includes whenever it cascades down to 1, it just ensures that you get a 0 cost, which there's 3 in here: Ornithopter, Tormods, and Mox Amber. Yeah, this is how boring that deck is. But no, I just have these in to get that 0 cost, just that little bit of extra, just yeah. It's really nice when you hit the Mox Amber, because the first Sliver activates the Mox Amber, so you're like, oh cool, a free mana. But Tormod's Crypt, sometimes you're running against a Reanimator deck, and you're like, oh, suddenly I have Reanimator. Suddenly I can beat the Reanimator. Ornithopter is a blocker. It's just more value on top of the already existing value. Also, Renegade Map, Traveler's Amulet. I really don't know if I can cut these, just because they're so necessary sometimes. Because if you don't get your 5 different colors of mana, you're in trouble. And Renegade Map and Traveler's Amulet are just so good at just... Like, when you open with one of them, you're like, I'll play it turn 1, and then turn 2, the Renegade Map cracks. Maybe the Traveler's Amulet cracks if you have nothing else to play. But you're just like, oh, land. Which I know what you're thinking. Why not just play a land in its place? Because it can get any kind of land. That's why. Yeah, another really relevant, just haste. You want haste because you want to be hammering your opponent in the face as much as you can. Like, Leeching Sliver helps with that. Dregscape is just amazing, because when you have Dregscape, even if Dregscape dies, you can unearth it and then unearth all your other slivers for a second go-round. Say you have the Dregscape, you've got the first sliver, you've got your Bone Scythe, you've got your Cloud Shredder, and then, oh no! You've been board wiped! Oh, crap! Joke's on them. Because for the low price of 2 mana, or 4 mana, you can get your Dregscape and your first sliver back. If you have 6 mana, you then throw on the Cloud Shredder. And if you have 8 mana, it's game over. It's basically just a big ol' second round of slivers. It's very good, it's very fun, and aside from, I don't know how fun I would classify this deck as, honestly. Just because you're not thinking, you're not doing anything unique, you're just playing slivers. Like, your goal is, I get to 5 colors on turn 5 or turn 4, and I play my first sliver. And then you just kind of play the rest of your slivers, and that's all you do. There's not really any thinking involved. But yeah. Maybe it's for people who really don't like to think. It's kind of like you just, it's very simple to play. You just kind of go, I play my sliver, I play my sliver, I play my sliver, and that's it. But hey, I personally, if you couldn't tell, am not a fan of slivers in general, just because of how annoying they are, and how just like there's really no. You either have removal and can board wipe them, or you lose. But yeah. Anyway, thank you all for watching. If you liked it, give it a like. I love to see those thumbs. They mean a lot, and they greatly help out my channel. Like, you have no idea. I love it. If you really liked it, considering checking out the channel, subscribing. I upload Magic the Gathering content daily. I love your faces. Goodbye!
Drunken Hat.